Yeah, put this mic down a wee bit. Robbie's a bit bigger than me. So before I start, Robbie's asked me to share some of my story with you guys today. Before I start, I just want to firstly thank you guys, the two Robbies for heartfelt, for putting on this event and the work that they've put in. I understand there's been a good few difficulties over the last few months, but you have pulled together and you have done really well. So, and not only that, I want to thank you for the great work you do around Inverclyde with the guys as well. And I'm so happy just to call you as friends.
Justin, thank you.
I'll take it here. Like Willie says last night, when he's speaking, he likes to walk about. I'm a bit the same. So I'm going to share some of my story with you guys today. I think I've got 20 minutes, so I'll keep it kind of brief. So my name's Dean, and before, every time I go up and share my story, I usually joke and say I'm just a young guy from Dundee. But as I was doing that, my wife would check us and go, "You're not that young anymore, Dean, you're 35. So I just usually say, I'm just a wee guy from Dundee. Lived a life of chaos all my life. I grew up in a loving family, my mum, my dad. Had a great time growing up. And when I was 14, things started to spiral out of control. My dad was my hero, and everything he'd done, I'd look up to him, and anything he'd done in life, I wanted to copy him and emulate the things he was doing. I remember he'd go into the kitchen and he'd pour his protein. He liked his boxing and stuff like that. And I was like 13 years of age, and he'd drink his protein shake and he'd leave a little bit in the bottom for me to drink. And at that age, I'd go out onto the streets of Dundee and start fighting with all my wee pals, thinking I was stronger than them. But he lost his life when I was just 14. And I had so much scarring, so much trauma. I had to deal with a lot of things going forward. So I just started to dip my toes in all the wrong things. I started to use drugs at a really young age. By the time I was 19, I started using heroin. I was introduced to heroin, and that's when my life started to go right out of control. I didn't really, within 6 months, I couldn't get a handle on it. It took control of my whole life, dictated when I went to sleep, when I ate, when I'd wake up, controlled everything about my life. And this went on from I was 19 till I was 30, just abusing heroin, Valium, all that kind of stuff. I just didn't know how to escape it, and I went down every single avenue to try and get help. I was in and out seeing my doctor all the time, my drug workers. Ended up on 80 ml of methadone for years, and all this medication that was just kind of making us worse. And this was almost a decade of just battering my body with drugs. And I really didn't know how I was going to change. So one night I'm lying in my house. I had infection in my groin, infection in my foot, we injecting drugs and stuff like that, and I thought, I just broke down. I was 29, 30 years of age, and I thought, I really want to change my life. But I had never seen anybody in Dundee go on to change your life and go on to live a good, successful, joyful, peaceful life. I never ever seen any of that. And I remember sitting in my house one night, and I just broke down. I was in a really, really bad way. I had infection in my foot, my groin, and my hands and all that were all scars from injecting drugs. And I had my probation worker the very next day. I was going to see my probation worker Tricia in Dundee. And I went in the office, and the intention was to go in and say, "Look, Tricia, I want to come off all these drugs and change my life, but I just don't know how." So I went down and did that. I says, "Tricia, is there any chance I can come off all these drugs and try my best to live a better life the best way I can?" And she went, she was just the same as me. She never seen too many people in Dundee go on to change their lives. And she went, "Dean, just try and reduce on your methadone, try and reduce on some of your medication, and just try and live your life the best that you can like that. I remember leaving the office that day. I headed up, went home to see my mum and my aunties and stuff like that, and I just broke down, and I trusted this advice, so I just knew that this was it. There was nothing that was going to help me overcome this addiction, all this trauma, all this fear, all this depression. I don't know what happened. Within 4 weeks, I bumped into this what I thought at the time was a wee mad Christian lady. And she had worked with guys like myself for the last 30 years, helping them get into places like the Haven, Hope House, and all that kind of stuff. She didn't know me, but she just seen that I was in a really, really bad state. But she invited me up to her house, which I thought was strange. I thought, this wee lady's inviting me up to her house. I could steal anything off her. But she was smarter than me. She had a box of Quality Street sitting in the middle of the table and everything else was out the way. And she sat me down for like an hour and a half and said, look, Dean, I can see that you're in a really, really bad way. But she said, I've got a place for you to go. And that place is the Haven, Kilmacombe. And she says, if you go there and you listen to the leaders, guys like Willie, Andy Cameron, and all these guys that have been there before you and done it, and now they're living a good, successful, peaceful life. If you listen to these guys, your life will change forever, and you'll never ever look to drugs the same again in your life. Alright? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. And again, me being cynical, I left that day and went back to my mum, my family, and says, there was this wee mad Christian 70-year-old woman telling me if I go to some rehab, my life will change forever. And my mum was like me. My mum never ever entertained the fact that there was a God that can help me change my life. She was worse than me, actually. But she went like that. She went, Dean, give it a bash. What have you got to lose? So in 2019, I left Dundee. My mum, my aunties, my families, I've got a wee girl that was like 2 at the time. They were all standing at the bus stop in Dundee as I was leaving to go out of the Haven Kilmacombe in 2019. And as my mum recalls now, she was just waiting on a phone call just to say, Dean's left, or Dean's relapsed again, because that's what happened for 10 years previous. I'd always get clean for a day, a month, a couple of months, but I'd always relapse again. So I went here, and I always tell the story. I left, I never had any clothes. I had a pair of fire trap jammies that I had for about 2 years, and that's what I'd get up in the morning, I'd put these fire trap jammies on, and I'd go out and score for years and years and years, and I'd go straight back to the house. And that was my life. And my mum's best friend's son seen that I was in a terrible state and that I was going to the Haven, and he gave me a jumper, a Lacoste zip-up and a shirt, just to say, look, take that, Dean. I know you're going away and you'll be going to events and stuff like that. There's something to wear. I left Dundee with nothing, never had a bank card, not one thing to my name. I never knew what I was coming into. I just thought, I'm going to get a bash and try my best to go and change my life. So I did that. I went into the Haven March 18th, 2019. I just grinded it out. It was difficult at times. It's a year long. You've got guys like Wally and stuff chasing you up when you're misbehaving, chasing you down. So it's a difficult program. But I just knew that there was nothing going to come in my way this time. No barriers were going to stop me from breaking through and changing my life. So I just stuck it out. I started to really dig in, asked a lot of questions to the staff, and I started to seek God, and I started to ask God for help. Come into my life. If you're real, come and help me, God. And what happened was, I was 3 months in, and I was about to get a day out, but because I was just quite silly, what I done was, I just punished the gym for 4 months, and that's how I went about my time in there for the first 4 months. I just went to the gym every day. Even the days I wasn't meant to be in the gym, I'd sneak up after my lunch. And I started to get strong on the outside, and I never done any work internally. And I remember going back to Dundee for a day out, and I was sitting in my auntie's living room, my family were all there. I was clean for drugs, 4 months clean. And I remember all my family were sitting about and they were all talking, and they were all sharing exciting, positive stories. And I remember sitting there and I could not utter a word, because I was probably just in as worse a state there than I was when I was on drugs. I had so much trauma, so much fear, so much hurt. I was bound, and I just knew that I need to do something when I get back to the Haven. So I left Saturday night, and I was never a man that would read the Word of God or nothing like that. I got on the bus, travelled back to the Haven after my day out, and I just thought, I'm going to open my Bible and get a bash. And I opened it on the book of Haggai, and I didn't know nothing about it, and I just seen, therefore, says the Lord, consider your ways. As soon as I read that, everything started to change. I just knew God was telling me, Dean, you need to start considering the way you're living your life. Because if you keep messing about, you're going to die. And you're not going to be there for any of your family. And when I got back to the Haven that night, and then following on the months later after that, I just started to commit every aspect of my life to God, and ask Him for help at every turn. And He did that. He took the trauma, took the fear, took the hurt, took every single thing away. And it's an amazing thing that He done in my life. We get a chance when we're 7, 8, 9 months in, just like you guys that are doing here today with Willie. I got a chance to go into the streets of Greenock one night with Willie to the Teen Challenge bus, just to help the guys in Inverclyde and speak to them about rehab referrals and stuff like that. And a wee girl walked on the bus that night. She's just at the back, no one to embarrass you, babe, but she's just at the back there with the glasses on her head. Me and Willie were on the bus, and Willie kind of knew her from before. And we just started to talk to her about rehab and stuff like that, and she was just out of prison, and I was quite scared there at the time, so I just left her to people like Anne and all that. But she seen something in Willie's life that Willie never had before, and she says, I want some of that, because she knew Willie from a previous life. And she said, I want to go to rehab, so she went and done rehab as well, the same time as me. She went on to further her skills in a place called Leadership Academy. She come back, and I'll just share this wee short story. I don't want to embarrass her too much. I finished work one night, and I was in McDonald's having a wee something to eat, and she messaged me and says, my mates went to the cinema tonight, and they never invited me. And I went, well, I'll take you. And we just got married 1.5 years ago. And we've just had a beautiful son as well, 6 months ago. So God's been extremely kind to myself, to Ashley. We both work now in organisations that we get the opportunity to help guys that are in need, and that is our life. It's not our job. I maybe need to cut this out. I'm getting in trouble a lot. I do this in my house at night when I shouldn't be doing it, working, helping guys, rehab referrals. It's something I need to work on, boundaries. My wife tells us that for it all the time. But as Robbie shared earlier, this is what we love. We know that when you're in addiction, 1,000,000% you can change your life and live a great successful life again. So that's what we're doing. I work in your voice now, along with all you beautiful partners, tying in with you guys and working along some of the same guys that you work with. And I get to work alongside a great team. We're kind of trying to look to get guys into rehab, look to see what we can do when they come out of rehab and stuff like that. So I just want to thank each and every one of the organisations here today. There's an organisation here that can do stuff that we can't. So I think that's why it's important, and I thank you guys for bringing this together. It's important that we come here and work alongside each other. The guys that we work with can tap in to every organisation to see what each of we do, so that when we're not here or we're closed, there's somebody else there to meet your needs. So I just want to finish, and I want to juice the band back up. And firstly, I want to thank God for my life and the things He's done for me. And I know it can be a touchy subject for some people and stuff like that, but I'm a man of God, and I walk with God, and that's how I live my life. And I believe He's changed my life, and I believe He's got the power to help anybody change their life. So that's what we're going to do going forward. Come together as a team and work together. We've got caseloads as big as that ocean of people that are coming for help. So that's why we need each other to refer on and work alongside each other. So I just want to thank you guys for inviting me down the day to share. It's been a wonderful day, and many more of these events coming. So thank you very much. So I'm just going to invite the Recovery Jam back up to play a few more songs.